Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff Mom Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
Oh, and we are coming back talking about dating and its glory, I guess. Not really. So we've had a few episodes about dating and dating sites. Of course, something controversial just happened, and that means we have to revisit it. And I feel like a majority of the people who are on social media, are on any of the dating sites, already know what we're probably going to jump into. But boy, did they put themselves in a bit of trouble. And what's so funny is this is going to be a shorter episode because obviously we're getting real trendy. We jump on social media controversy. But just the response and the things that are happening with this company, it's very interesting because we've already talked about the fact that dating sites are not as popular anymore. We've been inundated with so many types now. They are all going to subscription based, which is really annoying. We're going to eventually have to talk about why everything's going subscription.
Yeah.
Because they want you to pay forever. Like this scheme is driving me nuts.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. Because like I was playing a phone game, Anney. I'm going on a tangent. And they have a subscription system. And I was like, wait, what? A phone game. I've seen where you have to buy things, which I've gotten myself into trouble. I'm like, quit buying packages and like packs and stuff.
Right.
But now some of them have just been like, hey, just pay $20 a month and you can have this double access. I was like, what?
Yeah. I've been looking at that in terms of what I subscribed to during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because we were all isolated and we were all, at least for a time, I think it faded away, but for a time we were all trying to, we'll do virtual video game sessions together, we'll do virtual watch sessions together, and they were all subscription based.
Yeah.
So some of them I've been looking over and I'm debating, okay, I really don't need that one anymore. This one I get, but I kind of, but yeah.
It's absurd.
That whole, it is.
Like, I'm very upset. Anyway, that was a whole different tangent. But yeah, everything in subscription systems and dating sites have been doing this. Like, honestly, for the longest time, the subscription ones were rare. So Match.com, eHarmony. And people didn't use that as much because they were that base and you had to do like the multi-whatever tier. You're gold, you're this. Well, then everybody else started jumping on, including Tinder, including Bumble, which is what we're talking about. And though, yes, I'm talking about how much I hate the data system in which they just make money monthly. They do have a free service. And for a long time, we were like, cool, geared towards women, all these things. Bumble, who boasts about its system allowing for women to have control when it comes to dating and relationships, and even talks about men being able to find women who are strong, independent women, if that's your type. Literally says that in some of the things in it. And I was like, oh, who did this press release? That's not cute.
Right.
But okay. And we have praised them because every now and again they do some things like, banning the toxic people, men specifically, and those who are predators. Like they oftentimes would seemingly take control of that and be like, we want to protect the women. The system of the best friends or friends finding system, which was newer, or they were one of the ones that popularized that, the networking. So it seemed all cool. And I was looking at their social media because there's so many things going on and there's so many confusing things on this. But first, let's talk about their recent ad in one of for their business, which, by the way, their business has not been going well. All of the lists that I've been looking at for the top 5 dating sites, they have not been included, which surprised me. I honestly thought it would be there. The Old Faithful, again, eHarmony, Match.com, and even OkCupid have been on there, and with some surprises, like Zoosk made it on there. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Her, which is a queer site for women, so I was like, oh, cool. They made it on to some lists, but Bumble was nowhere to be found that I could see. And yeah, they had a layoff of around 30% of their staff, around 350 people recently, as well as a net loss of $32 million in the last quarter of 2023. And it's gotten bad. I think it's like 42% net loss in the last year. So not doing well. They are not doing well. But they decided to go down a risky, kind of trendy, how social media people have been praise for being sarcastic and off the cuff, edgy, essentially.
Yeah.
I guess this is where they were going with this because it was kind of a clapping back at women who have decided not to date. So I guess bullying them into dating with billboards saying, you know full well a vow of celibacy is not the answer. Who the f*** are you talking to? Bumble? Excuse me? Like that statement in itself, the way it's phrased, would make me want to fight. Like, who are you? And why are you in my space? Shut the f*** up.
Right.
Like that's
Who took a vow of celibacy?
I'm like, what? Excuse me? Oh, you say I can't? Watch me. Like, that makes me want to do it more. And then another one that says, thou shalt not give up dating and become a nun. Which is like an offensive. There's so many things offensive to this level. Like, why are you going after religion in one way? Why are you using, like, blasphemous speak for people who may be religious? Like, what the hell?
What the hell, indeed.
Exactly.
But also, that's a very dichotomy that is not. So if I don't want to date, I guess I'll be a nun.
That's my only choice.
Yeah.
Because I'm like isolated in this that there's only religion. Religion is the only term for me. I don't know. But of course, as I have had this visceral reaction and you're having this reaction, responses are as expected. They're not excited. They don't get this. Most of the reactions, again, were visceral. Many trying to figure out whether it was a joke and how it even gotten approved. Like I actually looked to see if I could find their marketing or advertising person. I did not find those numbers or those names because I want to blast them. Like, what were you thinking? Was it a man? It has to be a man. Someone tell me because it sounds like what a man would say when they're rejected. In order to like talk you into dating them. Like this is what it seems. And this is of course a very heteronormative conversation the way I'm having it. But that's what it is. It's almost a sexist level of like, excuse me? You want to do this? As PRDaily.com put it, quote, social media users castigated Bumble for insinuating that people couldn't make celibacy a personal choice. Others also read the message as supporting patriarchal notions that insinuate women can't make their own sexual choices, which was like the underline of like, really? Why would you? What are you trying to say? This is not selling it. Someone was talking about this, only leads to hookup culture, which can be toxic in itself and really is patriarchal and sexist in a lot of ways. The reactions have been quite entertaining, a lot of conversations, and we wanted to read some of those off. From Inc.com, they wrote, on X, Twitter, for example, one user said they were shocked by the @Bumble ad saying a vow for celibacy is not the answer, and noted that in a world fighting for respect and autonomy over our bodies, it's appalling to see a dating platform undermine women's choices. Wasn't this app supposed to empower women to date on their terms? Taking a different track, another user explained to the brand that asexuality is a sexual orientation and advised Bumble to do better. Another commenter wondered if Bumble had, quote, put millions of dollars into the failed ad campaign and questioned WTF is happening during these ideation meetings. I'm not really sure. I can't imagine what they were thinking with these. Like, this is funny. This is gonna be real funny, right? Everybody's gonna love this.
Yeah, it just feels really out of touch because I feel like definitely in terms of the access to reproductive rights and abortion right now, it feels out of touch. It's also like, we've talked about this before, that I feel there's a strange thing, and they went about even this strange thing in the worst way, but there's like a idea that is held that the liberated feminist woman must want a lot of sex. And so I feel like they were like leaning into that, but as you said, they were doing it in like the most shame, something's wrong with you, let's bring in religion, which a lot of people have issues with anyway.
Right. I'm not really sure why they thought condescending was the way to go.
Yeah, it's like you said, it feels kind of bullying. It's like, what, you're doing it wrong. Subscribe to our service. Yeah.
Let's do this. I got you. But like, it's funny because a couple of other posts, like, if you go onto any of their social media, Bumble's social media, people are angry and writing things. And one of the comments, it makes a great point when they say, Run an ad campaign telling men how to write better bios, take better photos, how to actually hold a conversation and string basic sentences together and not randomly bring up sex in the middle of a normal conversation. Then men will have more success on your app. This isn't women's problems to fix.
Yeah.
Again, she's not wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know the numbers though. We probably could look and see how many men do subscribe to Bumble, and there may be more men than women at this point, and that might be the problem. But yeah, if you really want men to be enticing for women, or people to be enticing for women as in general, but this very heteronormative idea, then you might want to teach how to do this.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that is a really good point because it is placing it. And that's always been the thing with Bumble, right? Is, women take the first move, which has its pluses and minuses. But this is like really putting it on. There's no other problem but you, lady.
Right. Weirdly, too. So this happened, and then 2 days ago, we're going to talk about their apology. On their site, they had they're having a crossover promotion with several of the influencers that's wearing a shirt that says exhausted with the old school paintings, how they become memes, of a woman lounging. And in these people who are influencers who have been working with Bumble to cross promote, put exhausted and tired and single. I feel like they're telling you what's wrong.
Yeah.
Exhausted and tired of dating and single. I feel like you're doing how are you doing both of the...
Yeah.
I think you understand what they're trying to say, right?
Right.
And you're trying to what?
Yeah.
So it's very confusing. Their advertising is thoroughly confusing, as in fact, they've been trying to do these new things recently, and it hasn't been successful. Another article written in today.com writes, a since-removed video ad posted to X, Twitter, on April 30th was also part of the campaign. In it, a woman joins an all-female religious group, but later becomes infatuated by a shirtless man trimming the hedges. That night, another woman gives her a phone with a Bumble loading. The first woman then leaves the group, and the text reads, "We've changed so you don't have to." What are you doing, Bumble?
That's so bizarre.
We're gonna help change your mind. It's such a weird trope.
Yeah. Here's this
with this whole religious group thing.
Hot shirtless man give up what I must assume might be a pretty serious decision you made to be a nun. You don't just become a nun. There can be trauma behind it for sure, but you don't just become a nun.
And this article goes on, many critics of the ads have said they minimize the variety of reasons people, especially women, may choose to be celibate. And again, this also brought out the whole 4B movement, which we've talked about repeatedly, and it's grown, y'all. People are actually taking this seriously, to the fact that men are getting mad. Men from the US, Western culture, are getting mad at this whole ideal and saying things like, you're going to be alone and sad. And we've already talked about how funny that is. And you're like, I don't think you understand what makes us sad. Being alone isn't necessarily it. You can be. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily the whole reason. About what's going on, today.com decided to add some more. Bumble needs to off and stop trying to shame women into coming back into the apps. Run ads targeted at men, telling them to be normal. Once again, you can date whilst being celibate, so it makes no sense anyway. You're enforcing a male entitlement to our bodies, which I think is interesting. And then they say, Bumble doing a campaign attempting to shame celibacy abstinence is an unserious way to tell the public y'all are nervous. It's also a very offensive way to tell your female customers that you're profiting off of their legs being open. Blunt to the point.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of like, y'all don't need all that.
No, you really, really don't. As you said, and we've discussed before, there is a lot of dating apps are hemorrhaging. They're in crisis. But there are reasons for that we've talked about that are well known. And it is a lot of predatory male behavior or just like a waste of your time. You go through so many profiles and you're like, okay, this guy, this is no good, no good, no good. So yeah, this does feel like it's leaning back on very patriarchal ideas of women. Your time is running out. You want the man, right? Like, you're not gonna be abstinent. Well, that would be, you don't want to be a prude. You've got to get the man. So,
Right.
not addressing the real issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that, again, that's a big point of what they're saying, what many of the critics are saying. Of course, realizing that they may have made a mistake, that they did make an official apology, and this is what they wrote on their different social media posts. To our beloved Bumble community, we made a mistake. Our ads referencing celibacy were an attempt to lean into a community frustrated by modern dating, and then instead of bringing joy and humor, we unintentionally did the opposite. Some of the perspectives we heard were from those who shared that celibacy is the only answer when reproductive rights are continuously restricted, from others for whom celibacy is a choice, one that we respect, and from the asexual community for whom celibacy can have a particular meaning and importance which should not be diminished. We are also aware that for many, celibacy may be brought on by harm or trauma. For years, Bumble has passionately stood up for women and marginalized communities and their right to fully exercise personal choice. We didn't live up to these values with this campaign, and we apologize for the harm it caused. So here's what we're doing. We're removing these ads from our global marketing campaign. Bumble will be making a donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline, among other organizations, as a part of our ongoing efforts to support the work being done around the world to support women, marginalized communities, and those impacted by abuse. We will also be offering these partners this billboard space to display an ad of their choice for the duration of our reserved billboard time. Please keep speaking up and telling us how we can be better. We care about you and will always be here for you with love and sincere appreciation. Bumble. So they're trying to come through with fixing things. I guess it's the best way we can say. Of course, the reaction, not so forgiving. One of the responses were, but they are still not getting it. It's not only about reproductive rights or asexuality. For many women across the country, it's because dating straight men has become just not at all worth the time and effort it takes because men are not held to a higher standard regarding empathy, emotional intelligence, maturity, or communication. We are exhausted, which is one of the shirts they have on there. And being celibate is easier than dealing with a dumpster fire that is trying to date as a straight woman, to be honest, regardless of age. This ad campaign was in such poor taste, especially because they're supposed to be advocating for women and not exploiting them to the lower standards from the atrocious hookup culture. Do better, Bumble. So they were not happy. So many of them were like, the celibacy community isn't pressed. We didn't ask for your allyship. You dressed these ladies as nuns to insinuate that celibate women are recluse and limited. We aren't. We are actually happy over here. I really appreciated that one. Another one wrote, only sorry because you were losing customers, and they are losing customers. And then another one wrote, you didn't lean into a community, you leaned into the feelings of men. You had no regard for women. You made it a woman's problem to fix the lack of sex men are having. How about addressing why women are not interested in having a relationship with men? Maybe tell the men to fix themselves instead of the women to give in. Do better. I think that's a pretty powerful statement. I mean, yeah. Well, that's exactly what happened. And whether or not they thought it was funny or who thought it was, that was right on point. You made it a woman's problem to fix the lack of sex men are having, which is something that is continually being said and is a big proponent of rape culture on top of control. Like
Yes.
This ownership that men have over women and that they are owed sex.
Yes. Which we've also discussed a lot before. That is extremely detrimental, especially when you're younger and you're trying to figure out things that you like and want. And then this pressure comes in to do, like, if I don't have sex with him, he'll leave.
Right.
He'll find someone else. So even if I don't want it, I'm going to do it. This actually stirred up a memory for me too. I once was with two dudes that one of them I later found out like had a big crush on me. I didn't know this at the time. But he said he was celibate. And I just was like, yeah, okay. And that guy we were with was like, oh, that's cool. And then he asked me, and I was like, no, I've had sex. And he was like, oh. But I feel like if I'd said I was celibate, he would have also. But with the guy, he just was like, oh, cool. But for me as a woman, he felt like, oh no. He felt very ready to weigh in on that situation because he had had sex for sure. But not me, not cool.
Oh. I think you're cool.
Thanks. It's just weird that we put that on women. It's like it becomes the have you had sex, then you're a slut. But if you haven't had sex, well, you're none.
Right.
And you must be miserable.
Right. And you're unhappy, quote unquote, which is, again, such an odd statement. Like there's so many, we've gotten so far, like you have said, from women being liberated to if you're not liberated, then you are stunted and oppressed and unhappy.
Right. And it's really unfortunate because I think that if you want to have consensual sex, totally support you, shouldn't be judged for it, should be able to use an app and feel safe. That would be great. If you don't want to, that should also be okay. But I feel like we've really reduced it into an either or that is not healthy.
Right.
You could be a liberated woman who's like, I actually am not into sex.
Right.
That's fine.
And that's your choice. That's the conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of to this level of, it's such a weird level of like feminist and anti-feminist. Like it's being used as both.
Yeah. Yes. I've had a lot of thoughts about this lately. I want to come back and do this, even though it's going to make me really mad. But I've seen that happen a lot recently in politics, where usually white women, conservative white women, are using feminist terminology now that they once never would have. Mm-hmm. But now they're using it and be like, oh, you won't let me speak because I'm a woman. And I'm like, no, the rules are it's not your turn to speak. That's the rule of the Senate. So I do think there's something that's happening that's a flattening of what feminism is and intersectional feminism is. Right. And it's concerning me, honestly.
It is. I think there's the bigger conversation is that we need to remember, I think we're so caught up in fighting about feminism that the best perspective is like intersectionality is different. Like I wish we came in the episode talking about how feminism was a bad word and it's just now being misconstrued, not feminism in its theory and what it is, but like of who is using it and why.
Yes.
And I wanted to look it up because again, that conversation is like, why are you telling women that they need to have sex, that you're not going to be able to do this type of thing. Interestingly, in 2023, the gender ratio goes male to female 3-1. There's only 34.7 users that are female or that are women for Bumble as of 2023. So this is not the way to go. Why would you've lost so many of your main people. Why would you do this?
Right. Especially because they've gone away from this now, but it was women had to reach out first.
I think they still do, technically, unless maybe they have like the premium.
I think pretty recently.
Oh, really?
They've gone away from it, and it could be because of those numbers.
That might be why.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what the, like...
Maybe it is a different tier. I'm not sure. Right. But I'm pretty sure they've gone away from women have to make the first move, which was their whole thing. And it would make sense if only like a third of their users are women.
Right. Right. So it looks like they have different Bumble Boost versus Premium. And That's significant. If you want to get the premium for life, which is really sad.
Hey, maybe you just want to date.
Maybe. Okay, that's right. So I'm sorry. But if you're trying to get in here for relationships, then that's sad. I'm sorry. But it's $229.99 for lifetime subscription for Bumble Premium, which apparently allows you see who's already liked you, advanced filters for your feed, it gives you incognito mode and travel mode. It lets you change locations. Wait, they don't let you do that now? I used to be able to.
I don't know.
Oh, man. I used to be able to 10 years ago. It's been a minute. I don't think I've ever dated anyone off that one, though. I never could make the move.
Honestly, I would have a tough time making the move.
Which is a lot of people have talked about that, too. They're like, it's a great idea, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way. Like, people are too shy. Girls don't know how to start. Like, all of those things.
Well, again, also, if the online dating community is so toxic, then yeah, I'm nervous it's going to be somebody who's going to send me a dick pic immediately.
Right, immediately. Again, never had that. I think I just have that face. Don't fuck with me. It's the face.
Yeah.
I'm cursing a lot in this episode. But yeah, like I'm actually surprised. I thought it would be the other way around, or at least even. But man, 3-1.
That's significant.
Yeah, and then you run these ads. Like, you need to, I don't think you understand. Why are you doing the push and pull thing? Who do you have on your advertising team? Is it the dudes? Is it the hookup dudes? Because this is bad. Like, what were you thinking?
I mean, knowing this now, I think they're thinking, as some of the other users pointed out, they're losing a lot of money. They're losing a lot of users. Maybe we'll go back to things that tried and true patriarchal methods that people have used before, but try to dress it up as some weird empowerment message that it's definitely not.
There's so many things. That I have questions about. But yes, I think at least they are giving that space to other, I don't know what space they have used it for. I haven't looked that far into it outside the controversy in their apology, which was given 2 days ago. So today's May 16th, 2024. So I guess like May 14th is when they decided, oh yeah, we f***ed up. Here we go. As I'm looking at their social media posts in general, like nothing is a standout outside of, the fact that they have several influencers having that exhausted t-shirt on.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, because like this one influencer, she wrote in her caption, "Exhausted girl summer at Bumble wake up call." Maybe it's telling them to wake up and stop being exhausted. It doesn't play.
That doesn't sound good.
It doesn't play into what I think.
No, that does not sound good.
Single, fabulous, and exhausted from the dating scene. Wake up call. If you're single and fabulous and exhausted, then
why date?
Why do you want to put yourself in that mess?
From the dating scene? Sounds like you're good.
Sounds like you're great. You look good in the shirt. This influencer looks great. I think her name is Tessa. She looks amazing. But yeah, like I'm baffled in this flip that they have. I'm not really sure. Again, they did not think this through. Again, I have not seen, maybe these posts were up on social media. I think they were only billboards. From what I gathered, they just ended up spreading wide and far. Did not go well. They forgot that social media was a thing, and going viral is not necessarily great. But yeah, I think it makes me sad to see something that was women empowering at the beginning, owned by a woman who went through her own stuff at Tinder, did her own thing, was making money, doing her little thing, and then it comes to this of being like, yeah, you're just like every corporation that we've seen. You want our money, you want women to build you up and hold you up, but when it comes to caring for the women, you do minimally, and then just crash and burn. So it seems.
Yeah. It's a very status quo type of ad. Because I've been thinking about this too, about gendered ads. And I'm like, we've moved on from these, haven't we? Can't we? We don't need to do this anymore. But people are still doing it because it worked once upon a time. But now things are going viral and we're having opinions about it, and it's not working like it used to. And still, companies, I feel like they rely on it. They rely on that
Right.
structure, that kind of patriarchy. You've got to pay for it, women, or else
Right.
you'll never get a man. Oh dear.
Oh no.
Threaten me with a good time. JK.
Oh, JK. I would be interested to know if the usage has actually gone down, because the numbers that I'm seeing are not showing that necessarily, but it is consistently showing that it is mainly more men than women. And as in fact, a Pew Research article talking about it said women who have used online dating platforms in the past year, and this was for 2024, are more likely to feel overwhelmed by the number of messages they get, while men are more likely to feel insecure about a lack of message. So
That makes sense.
I feel like for anybody who is trying to think of what to do, like if they're trying to make money and looking like at apps and sites, they need to put these in consideration. Like they need to think about how this is vetted. And I think there are some that we have seen that have done better with that. But then they've changed because they weren't getting enough influx. And again, none of these are sponsors, obviously. Not speaking very highly of them, so, but none of them are really sponsors. But I know that Coffee Meets Bagel, their intention was only giving you a few men at a time. I think that has changed. And then I feel like Hinge was something similar, where you're supposed to know at least someone that they know, and that has changed too. I think Hinge has become a little more popular since they first started, but I know like the original intents were different. So I feel like, I don't know if they just weren't making enough, or they're trying to catch up to Tinder, which was always been a part of the hookup culture. So they have their own thing again, but it's mainly men.
Yeah. And I feel like so many companies, it makes me sad because I'm like, what you started out as, I liked, and then capitalism really got the claws in and you moved away from that. But it is ultimately an issue of rape culture and dating culture. And it's isolating and sad because I feel like people do want to get together, but reasonably women don't feel safe and men then feel insecure, hurt. They're not getting any messages or nothing compared to what women are getting. But that's how it is. So your billboard is not going to help if we don't try to change that situation.
And yeah, coming back but to the Pew research, it says younger women who have used dating sites or apps stand out for experiencing unwanted behaviors on these platforms. It goes on to say, a majority of women under 50 who have used dating sites or apps, 56%, say they have been sent sexually explicit messages or images they didn't ask for, and about 4 in 10 have had someone continue to contact them after they said they were not interested. That was about 43% of them, or have been called an offensive name. That's 37% of them. And roughly 1 in 10 of this group, 11%, have received threats of physical harm. But yeah, so you see like 1 in 10 have received threats of physical harm. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I think it's unreasonable to expect anything from an online dating encounter in the beginning stages other than, let's see if maybe I'm interested.
Right.
I don't think that should, like, any rejection from that, if it's politely like, hey, I'm not interested, that should not be a threat of violence. It should not be like, I'm going to send you a dick pic anyway. It should not be like, that's how relationships work. You don't just like, you have a little bit of a back and forth first.
Right. I mean, if she asks you, if they ask you for it, sure, go for it.
Consensual?
That is called consent. Right. You do you. But outside of that, what? And yeah, that Pew Research paper was actually 2023. So it's a year old. So who knows? Because like, again, I haven't seen much since then. I don't see much since then. I'm sure a new one will come out if it hasn't already, and I just hadn't seen it. But the fact that at least half the women, at least like half, like under 50, which is the majority of people, like it's gotten more popular for 50 and over, but for a chunk of the people users, they're under 50 typically. And to have to deal with that constantly and then have this kind of ad that really shames women for saying they don't want to have sex. Excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when the exhausted part is part of their campaign, seemingly.
So they know women are saying they're exhausted, but you want to add this to their blame and guilt. Okay, cool.
Turn it on them. Like they're not trying hard enough or something. It is on you that you're exhausted, actually.
And you should do this more.
Right.
Whether you want to or not. Let's coerce. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I had not heard about this until you brought it to my attention, but it is quite a...
It's a buzz around my FYP. And I was like, this is not real. I really thought it was a joke at first. I was like, that's not true. That's not. I had to make sure because it was around April. I was like, is this still like an older April Fool's one? What's happening? Yeah. And then just the last bit, I did see a CNN article where it says Tinder downloads are falling, but the dating app era isn't over yet. So they are falling. They apparently fell by at least 8% from last year to just below 10 million users. So they're declining. Like we kind of knew that was going to happen. We kind of knew it was happening. Like the peak times were 2016 and 2018, it looks like, which is an interesting time. Was I on it? I guess I was on it then. I was one of those. 2020 had a kind of that increase as well. Not surprising. But yeah, it is pretty significantly lower. Definitely the lowest it's been since 2014.
Yeah. And we talked about that a little bit in the recent-ish episode we did about what's going on with online dating. And in that episode, a lot of people, especially younger people, cited exhaustion, like just being tired with it. But you mentioned that there's been a growth in matchmaking. Mm-hmm. And after you said that, I started to see that in a lot of places. So I do want to come back and look at that.
Yes. I think it's fascinating. Like, again, I've realized different cultures still use matchmaking and have used it for a long time. I know South Korea actually does it. It's a big industry. And I didn't know this till later. I thought that was a K-drama thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, again, I think that there's this conversation of like matching in socioeconomic status wise. So they have this level of matching. Again, I feel like that's so outdated, but I'm not rich and no one tried to set me up with a rich person. So maybe that's why I didn't know about it. Personal experience does not apply here.
Right. Right. That's why I'm interested in it, because I've only heard about it in usually rich circles.
Right.
But I did see it come up in a lot of articles that were talking about people are tired of online dating. They're turning to matchmakers. Mm-hmm. So I would love if any listeners is willing to share a story.
Yeah.
I would love to know more about it, because, I mean, that's truly the sad thing about a lot of this is I have so many friends who want to find that person.
Right.
And they're doing the thing. And for a lot of people, online dating is very convenient, but it comes with this risk. It comes like all dating does. But to me, like hearing those numbers and hearing some of the stories my friends have told me, I just hate that it comes with this risk.
Right.
That you're just trying to find like happiness and someone to have companionship with. In 1 in 10, you might get threatened with violence. That's
right.
That's ridiculous.
And there's a 50-50 chance that you're going to get a dick pic.
Yep.
Or sexually harassed. And a 40% chance that you're going to be stalked. Like, these are not good numbers.
No. And it makes me so mad when, like, usually men get mad and they're like, women they never come out and date or won't do this. They're like, why? There you go.
You're the prime example. Again, I still go back to that one dude who was like, I know girls like you, don't date me, as his like opener. And I was like, what?
Correct.
Well, definitely
All right.
definitely not gonna respond. Block, block, block.
Right.
I don't know why you're threatening me. Like it's gonna be like, oh, he's so attractive. I love when they're automatically mad at me for existing.
Right. I didn't solicit this.
None of this. I didn't say hey to you. I cruised by. I don't know.
I mean, once again, like, with a normal interaction, you would at least, like, hey.
Right.
It's upsetting and baffling.
It's upsetting. Yes, and it's worse when companies don't recognize that this can be upsetting.
Yeah. It's a very limited view that was on display with this advertising campaign.
Right.
And it was not a good one. Nope.
This was hard.
Not it. Well, listeners, if you have any thoughts about this, we're always interested what's going on in the dating world, online or not. Any thoughts about this advertisement or matchmaking? Please let us know. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff One Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have a TeePublic store and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.